Let's do this, guys. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joining in today for this returning live podcast after a break of substantially, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. We've not been live here together like this, and it brings me absolute joy to come back into these conversations with Oliver and Lorian. Thank you for being here with us. Now, before we go into our conversation today about, procrastination, confidence, and mindfulness, I wanted to do a little bit of digging around to see where we guys have been the last 4 weeks. And over to you guys. I mean, tell us where you've been, and I'll come back at the very end.
Thanks, Avanti. Thanks. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you too, Oliver. Good to be back on our little stream, our podcast, sharing mindful stuff. So, I have been on a retreat, not for the full 4 weeks or so, but that's been one of my main focuses. So I spent a week in the beautiful mountains of North Wales with a group of people, and we were exploring the world through the landscape of some mild psychedelic mushroom plants from the area, the Amanita muscaria, which is the iconic red and white dotted, or red mushroom with white dots, that you see prolifically in fairy stories and grows all across the world, but particularly in the Northern Hemisphere. But you can get it in the States, and you get it through Europe as well, and beyond, and variations of that. So so it was my first foray into the world of psychedelics. It was a very gentle introduction, I'm pleased to say. So the Amanita muscaria is not as extreme a psychedelic experience as people might imagine. So some very gentle shifts, and perhaps we'll have a podcast on psychedelics at some point, something we've talked about, and how they can help, particularly in the world of mental health and moving us forward. So that's, in a nutshell, is some of what I've been up to.
How exciting. Psilocybin, mushrooms in general, there's been so much study in the past few weeks. We can't wait. I think, Lorian, also the newsletter that we spoke about, we're waiting for that to show.
Yes, I need to write my newsletter with my updates on my experience. So yes, that is in progress. So it'll definitely be out next week, if not before.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, Oliver, up.
Yeah. So I guess 2 things for the past few weeks. First is crazy travels. If you look at the map of US, if you draw just a circle round clockwise, that was me. It was a little bit of sideways. I live in Los Angeles, go up to Northern Cal, Seattle, Detroit, New England, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta, Texas, all the way to the north border again, Minneapolis, almost the border of Canada, and then back to LA. And then the other part is some more the Buddhism Dharma assembly, great masters, great chanting masters, great translators. I was part of the translation group also. Very good atmosphere, or whatever energy level. I think the whole thing, no matter kind of business travel or the Dharma, seems on 2 sides. But I'm very glad I've been in a very mindfulness state, and all the way around, right? On flight, off flight, didn't miss much. I think the only items was a T-shirt or polo shirt that I left because I had to wash it and hang in a cabinet. I forgot. That's probably the only item I forgot. Then everything else, you could imagine all those schedules, meetings, drivings, cars, flights. Nothing went wrong, and I think mindfulness played a very, very big role in it. The Dharma too, there's things happen in between. But I think, again, I was able to keep into a very mindfulness state, which I'm very happy. I hope by our talk, by continued practice, anyone or everyone who is listening, watching this, we'll get that too. Yeah, that was it.
That sounds like a long trip. I mean, and it's good to have you back with that slight difference in your look too. We love that. You do look invigorated, not exhausted.
I'm trying to appear less forbidden, like I am a teacher, you're a student, all the Chinese traditional. This is very sporty and ready for the weekend.
I love that. So coming to me now, we've been doing this work with Conscious together now for a while, and I'm really excited to announce or share, should I say, that we're working on a new product that we will be able to share a little bit more with you in some time. We're working on the basic draft and sort of bringing a team together to bring in a product that will propagate or bring with it the idea of mindfulness to more people. And what it is, what it looks like, I think it will take a little bit longer, but personally, I'm very excited to be able to bring the vision that we've been holding as a group for myself too, to bring out the word, so to say. I think we're getting closer to it. Though I think it changes nothing, we'll still continue doing the live sessions. We hope to bring as much information about mindfulness out to as many people as possible. So everything else will continue the same way, but there will be more to be shared on this front too. I'm excited. Thank you. So it looks like we're poised at a good place to then sweep into our conversation. Yes? Okay.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
I need some reassurance here.
You want to start with
We're good to go. Let's go.
questions,
Okay.
topics, or
Yes. So today's session actually comes with the special credit tag to somebody called Peter Nakov. He logged into the Conscious Together account on LinkedIn, and he left us a note saying we should talk about confidence and procrastination and how mindfulness plays a part in it. And we thought it was such a fantastic idea to get this conversation going. So this is to you. Thanks to you, Peter, for your idea. Here we go. So when we think about confidence or self-confidence into moving into procrastination, what is the connection between the two? And I'm going to throw this question out to the two of you before I gather my thoughts and sort of add in. So let's begin with you, Lorian. I think let's begin with you. You haven't spoken for a bit.
And that is a terrible thing, right? So thanks, Avanti. So yeah, so the connection between confidence and procrastination, or the juxtaposition perhaps of confidence and procrastination, I think that, I mean, confidence comes from success. So there's often sort of this side of bravado, which is sort of unfounded sort of faith in your abilities, which is not based on success often, but the idea that you might be able to bluff your way through. But I think genuine confidence comes from succeeding in tasks, succeeding towards the steps of your goal. Whereas procrastination is sensing that the weight of what you need to do is either insurmountable or simply too much effort relative to the reward at the end of it. And I think procrastination might be worth sort of trying to chuck some working definitions around. for me, what I've heard, which I like about procrastination, is knowing that it's something that would benefit you, but you still aren't able to sort of motivate yourself or make yourself do the steps necessary to realize that pattern. So you might know that you need to apply for a new job because you're miserable in your current job, or you don't have a job at the moment, and that if you did that work, that it would result in a better future for you, or likely to result in a better future for you. But in spite of that, you can't muster the energy, the drive to execute on those things. So I think in terms of the position of confidence and procrastination, confidence is built from success in taking actions towards your goal, whereas procrastination is the sort of the weight of the anchor of, I guess, not having taken successful steps towards your goal, and feeling that the mass of the challenge involved in the mountain, the psychological mountain you create for yourself out of what you need to do or what you feel you need to do, overcomes the confidence that you have to take those steps forward, so you don't go anywhere. I would say that that's my opening position.
I love that. That's very insightful,
Mhm.
especially when you call it the mountain, which is insurmountable. Absolutely. Thank you, Lorraine. Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine. And yeah, I agree on that. When you mentioned confidence is more based off success, and I just like to look at it from a different perspective. Same thing, just a different perspective. Somehow we can see the procrastination and confidence are one thing, because if you lack of confidence, they tend to be procrastination, and vice versa. So to me, there are a few examples. It's kind of all money related, right? Tax filing, and expense report when you work. Yeah, so over the years for myself, it has changed. So again, when I watch it, I can't help mentioning mindfulness, how much mindfulness training has helped. In many cases, if not all, procrastination is something that you don't want to confront, or you don't want to, there is some kind of fear. You really don't want to turn to it and look at it. Right. And then when you look at it, I think that's the mountain that Lorraine was mentioning. The more fear that you have, or the less you look at it, the more you turned away from it, the mountain becomes bigger. Right? It actually becomes bigger. So what mindfulness can help is mindfulness. You turn to it. You confront. You just look at it, and then when you look at it, it becomes smaller. And of course, sometimes it's not as simple, straightforward like this. For example, we go through a thought process and we think we can figure out. Yes, it is easy to figure out, just like some other habit, like smoking, right? We probably all know, I think all smokers, hopefully not all smokers, think it may not be a good thing to smoke, but you can't help picking up another cigarette. Psychologists or biologists may call it gene, right? It genetically somewhere, maybe some religion or other philosophy system call it different, like Buddhism call it the habitual tendency. Somewhere you accumulate it just deep in there, it is very hard to change. Again, becomes a mountain. Very hard to change doesn't mean you can't change. Actually, the way to change it could be, I know maybe we'll talk about the solution later, but it should be by just looking at it. Yeah, that's what I thought on this, between this confidence and procrastination.
And what I picked, I mean, thank you, Oliver. What I picked from both your messages here is, I think one is to have that psychological burden, to feel that this task or this job is bigger than you and you cannot control or manage it. So that's that belief that you hold, but also the belief that you have to face something that is really difficult to face, which is almost like an adversity, which is, expenses. Could be the fact that you're not such a numbers person and you don't enjoy doing it. And so to have that courage, can I say, to face that task is another aspect to it, which is, I think, brilliant, because once we know what causes procrastination, then we could do something about it. And isn't that what we do here? And that is what we want to realize. I think the fact that we are procrastinating sometimes doesn't look to be a big one, but it is when you often say the same things to yourself. Oh, I can eat that extra cookie because it's really a small one. No one's really going to know. That is something that is procrastinating on your diet plan, for example. Or you could say, oh, another hour, and I don't think I will lose that much time watching Netflix, or I won't lose that much time doing my work. So that is procrastination, because the fact that you're using substances to help you from doing what you're meant to do, like going through a very tedious document, that could be in itself procrastination. And so to become aware is the first step. And of course, we will talk about how we can deal with it coming up soon. But before that, let's bring Oliver back to do a little meditation and just face what we're thinking right now.
Yeah, thanks, Avanti. And I'd love to leave this first meditation. Actually, when we started doing today's streaming, and I feel a bit different. Sometimes I think mindfulness, this is a Chinese saying, just about martial arts, right? You cannot just do all the tension. It's like doing the archery, right? There are the flexible part, and then there's the tension part. Then you shoot the arrow. I think that mindful practice is also sometimes it just give you some time. Hey, forget about mindfulness, forget about everything, just relax or get into a totally different thing. But when you come back, you will find out that probably there's some good progress also in that way. That's how I feel just right now. I feel I have a kind of willingness to lead, more willingness. Well, that doesn't mean I can lead better than before, but let's do it then. Okay, let's take a comfortable position, either by sitting on a chair or cushion, or whatever other position that you feel comfortable. Could be lying down or could be standing. However, I always think personally, sitting either on a cushion or chair with the back straight, that's actually more relaxed. It'll be easier to get into a more mindful state. I think it's good for the body also. So sit straight, relax your two hands either by crossing in front of you or putting them on lap. You could also lower your gaze, or even close your eyes if that feel more comfortable. Let's start with watching our breath for a few moments. Breathing in, breathing out. By focusing on the anchor, either the tip of the nose, where you can feel the air in and out, or maybe the belly, or you can feel the belly rise, fall, expansion, contraction, along with the breath. Okay, so when you're ready, let's briefly check our body sensations. Our 2 feet touching the ground, or cushion. Other part of the body that's touching the cushion or chair. Allow our skin to feel the either warmth or coldness of the air around us. So when you're ready, let's start to watch what's in our mind, what thoughts are there. Normally, we would watch our emotions also, but here just thoughts in general, because no matter body sensations or emotions, although sound, light around us can cause thoughts. This is a bit broader than what's regularly defined as thoughts. More your kind of consciousness, what is happening in the mind. You might find that there are thoughts like the cloud disappeared and disappeared. See if you could notice that's probably the nature of all of our thoughts, no matter how important or urgent that we feel or we think. It comes, stays, and then disappears. We could also watch it from another perspective, see how true they are. For something that has happened, that's already happened. if it is now in our mind, how true is it? If it is something that is about to happen, or you have concerns, you worry about what is going to happen, it has not happened yet. So how true is it? There may be things that is happening now. But if we really split the time even further, is there anything that's really happening? Is either past or maybe not happened yet. So how true is it? How true are they? So for things that's not that true or solid, does any concern or worry make sense? Let's spend about 1 more minute. Just watch thoughts. And maybe just feel how true are they? Okay, good. Thank you for doing this short mindfulness meditation with us. And you can now open your eyes if they're closed. And then thank you.
Thank you so much, Oliver. It's good to get back to meditating together, I think, isn't it? It's a good habit. It's a good practice.
Yeah, it's nice to hold space together. It's good.
Okay, so I think the next question for me, let's dive into the next question about procrastinating, confidence. We talked about how mindfulness can support us. I feel like the light is not coming on to me directly. Can you see me well, you guys? Yes, still.
You're okay.
Okay. It's my mind. Let's blame it on the mind. Okay, so coming back to the question, let's look at how limiting beliefs play a part in us being mindful. When we say the words like a mountain and that is insurmountable, or if we're looking at habits that we don't want to look towards, these all point to factors which are limiting us in our way we think about them, right? So give us a little bit about what could those beliefs look like? How could we change that? And tell us a little bit about how mindfulness plays a part in this.
Yeah, so I mean, limiting beliefs are the sort of constant internal chatter of our mind, and they're, our inner thoughts are often very judgmental and often very critical, and telling us that we are not good enough, or that we shouldn't be rising above our station, or pushing ourselves beyond our place, our perceived subconscious place in a thing, in the context of what we're looking at. And these beliefs can be very easily sown in our childhood from subconsciously or consciously picking up comments that people around us make, whether it's our teachers, whether it's our parents, whether it's our friends, or siblings. Anyone in our life can unwittingly or even maliciously in some instances feed these doubts, these sort of seeds into our subconscious, where they take root, particularly if, although not necessarily, but particularly if an event has been very stressful, if we're scared, if we're embarrassed or ashamed. These sort of emotional mechanisms kick in to ensure that we remember one way or another these circumstances, so that we can try and avoid repeating them again. And so these echo through our lives into teenage years and into adulthood if unrecognized and unchecked, and can continue to play the story of our lives to us, the perceived story of our lives. And this is often an unhelpful story based on fear and rejection, and not wanting to put our head above the parapet for fear of getting shut down, shot down again. So that's what I think, or how often limiting beliefs manifest in our lives, and how they come to be a part of our lives. At a very, very quick run through. From a mindfulness perspective, simply listening to the chatter of our minds, so paying attention to the thoughts, using a practice such as Oliver led earlier in this session is a perfect example. Our ability to observe our thoughts is the first step in freeing ourselves from them. If you're not aware that you're in the movie theater of the mind, then it's very difficult to free yourself. You might say impossible to free yourself from a construction that you're not aware exists. And this is the challenge that so many of us have in life, is that we are so used to the noise in our head, we're so used to the chatter, to the voice, that we take it to be ourselves, and we don't even consider conceptually that there could be an alternative. So we just go through life asleep. This is another one of the sort of the metaphors used for sort of the mindfulness approach. You're asleep in your thoughts, or you're awake to the sense of consciousness and what it really is. So from a mindfulness perspective, that's one of the key skills that it can bring, particularly to sort of the limiting belief concept, but also, as you mentioned earlier, I think around the whole procrastination piece. What's going on? What are the patterns of my procrastination? What are the patterns of my limiting belief? What are these repeated phrases and terms that come up in my mind whenever I'm approaching a certain type of challenge or a certain type of perceived obstacle in my life? And that observation then offers us the opportunity to extend through perhaps other methods of behavioral adjustment, enhancement, such as cognitive therapy, for example, can then allow us to start challenging those thoughts, can start allowing us to question them, and to reprogram ourselves with more positive, more constructive patterns of thought and behavior that can help us towards our goal. I'll pause for breath.
That was a packed conversation, or input, should I say, because I love the fact that we talk about how from our subconscious, that it may not be our current situation, but a situation that has held us back from the past, that could speak to us even today. And that could be unnerving. A lot of us believe that we leave things behind, we leave situations behind, but really we could potentially just be carrying our thoughts with us, and that may not be helping us in the moment. Thank you so much for that, Lorraine.
Yeah.
Oliver.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lorraine and Monty. Yeah, I know we were we're having a brief discussion on that, limitation. What is the limitation? I actually thought of something like, so we have data or information input, and then we have a process or a algorithm in our mind. And then because of the algorithm is for same data, that is totally different result. It's funny, just something came up as the cuisine. Like three of us were from different cultural background, right? The potato or rice, let's say potato, Chinese stir fry, and then Indian stew, and in UK we got fish and chips and baked potatoes. Still potatoes, so it definitely tastes quite different. So the result was different. Do you want to say anything, Laurie? Commenting on it?
Just so yours, I'm the potato. Is that what you're saying? That's what this is how we're reconvening, is it, Oliver?
Yeah, the input. I think one time I used that example that a young students jump off a high floor, actually committed suicide. Quite tragic. But the thought process was, because of teachers and parents were all on side, I guess he has enforced this kind of limit or belief limit or his belief system for a long time. It's so disgraceful. It's meaningless, right? It could be a multiple different layer of thoughts. I have of no value, and then there's no meaning for life, and then like that. So that's limited. I guess unfortunately, for many people, those kind of belief system, no matter you have noticed, you are aware of that or not aware of that, maybe even the more dangerous ones are the ones that you're not even aware, tend to be more negative, right? We think we're not as good as others, and others are always better. If you look at those chat groups, the culture itself sometimes tend to enforce that also, because people post, here's the successful students or successful individual, and then it makes the rest of the individuals in the group sounds less successful, and things like that. So I guess the culture, more the individual habit again, that tend to be negative. So data input, the algorithm, so the belief is the algorithm itself. If we talk about how mindfulness can play a role, of course, like Laurie mentioned that first of all, you need to watch, right? Be aware that there is such a belief, right? And the more you watch, the more you observe, actually the more confident, because you see all those algorithm doesn't really make sense, right? It doesn't even have to exist, all these negative algorithm or negative beliefs. I think I'll pause here also. And, what do you think, Avanti?
Yeah, I'm just first thing that shows up for me is to say that I think mindfulness aside, I think psychologically each one of us must be aware that each of us is worthy, that each and every one of us is equal to another person. So no one's more than us, neither are we more than anybody else. I think that is important to state here. And that's what I believe very firmly. I think in how we measure success, we could be different. That I might run a 100-meter race and call myself successful, but Lorian would run a marathon and then call himself successful. So it is really about the goals we set for ourselves, which is important. And I think when we talk about procrastination, when we talk about doing difficult jobs or instilling difficult habits, sometimes making those goals shorter, smaller, quicker, that we can find a turnaround with, that helps us build our confidence, might be a smarter way. When we are looking for jobs, it may not help for us to have a goal that I want to be the CEO of a company, unless, of course, you have the experience and everything, and you found a company. I mean, that could be a possibility. But when you're 20 and you're starting, if you set yourselves very high expectations, it's important to realize that you could be setting yourself up for failure for your own sake. And I think stemming from this, procrastination comes from limiting beliefs in that we either expect too much of ourselves, or we think we are nothing, or we don't think anything of ourselves. So this extremity that we see ourselves in sometimes is the problem, that we're polarized. We're either too good or we're extremely bad. And I think and I can talk for the three of us here, I think we beg of our viewers, and if this video is reaching to you, please remember that we are on a scale here of mental health, of setting boundaries for ourselves, setting goals, and to hold ourselves as humane as possible and not get struck by these extremities. Lauren, you spoke about therapy, and I think the cognitive behavioral therapy is a powerful tool to examine if we are on either sides of our thinking parameters. But also, if you're not so big on therapy, if you're not so, if you don't like therapy so much, just starting to look at, do you only look at extremes in a situation? Do you either love a person or hate them? There is no in between. Do you do an extreme fad diet, or you go on an eating binge? Those two are extremes. And I think being aware of those extremes and sort of finding a balance in between, that is a good place to begin in my sense. And I think mindfulness for me has been a saving grace, because honestly, for the tumultuous sort of few years that I had around the early 2000s, if it weren't for mindfulness, I wouldn't realize that I was battling with extreme thought processes. Bringing that into balance has taken me years of work. I think anybody who's done this work will know, but it has paid off, and I think you become more balanced and more grounded in your approach to life. Yeah, that's good for me.
Right. Lauren, did you want to go first?
Yeah.
No, Oliver, carry on. I was going to say something, but no.
I just want to add, because I used that expense report or tax filing. It's also important when we observe our thoughts or the whole procrastination itself. It's important, and it is definitely possible to watch what is behind. Right? We don't want to do this tax filing or the expense. So go observe what is behind. I think for me, there was, of course, it takes time. It gets you off track or what you are comfortable doing now, and then do something else. That's one. The other one would be there is some kind of challenge. For example, a clear border, or for example, the receipts. I may always have a fear that I'm missing this receipts, and so that I have the spending, but it's not claimed. However, I think one thing also changed also when I say whatever, small receipts or whatever, I won't forget the big ones. So for small ones, even I miss a few, I don't know, like a taxi or Uber, that's fine. So it's okay for not an entire complete set of receipts. That's fine too. That makes it quicker also. And of course, the good news, if you're able to do, for example, January, you just finish your tax filing, for the next 3-4 months, you feel pretty light and successful, right? Lauren mentioned, you raise your confidence level on even doing other things. So it's a good, very positive cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those positive feedback loops are critical, Oliver, aren't they? I mean, you're right, and it's picking small steps that you can succeed in towards your goal, so that then, just like we sort of started with at the beginning, if you succeed in things, you gain confidence, and then that encourages you to continue that cycle. You want the sort of the dopamine hit that you get as a result of making success on something, right? So you want to repeat those steps, and I guess back to sort of Avanti's point, I think with people moving at extremes of perspective, it's having those steps broken down sufficiently. So yeah, if you want to be a CEO of a company, for example, that's not a one-step process. And if you try and approach it as a one-step process, you're invariably going to fail however you approach it, right? It's not a one-step process. And we need to look probably at a practical solution for a lot of things in our life is breaking things down into smaller chunks, so that we can see a working solution towards our goal. And we may not have the whole map available to us, right? We might not have the information, the skills, the knowledge, the understanding to know every step of what we're going to do between point 1 now and point 1000, where we have what we think is our dream outcome. But if we start taking the steps that we think will lead us towards a next realization on that journey, then that is sufficient, and that helps us learn, and that helps us develop, and it gives us the confidence to succeed, as long as we have the humility to appreciate that we will need to reset ourselves sometimes, right? So our journey, and this is what mindfulness allows us to observe more skillfully, our journey in life is never like this, right? It is always this sort of erratic path of forwards and backwards and peaks and troughs. And so when we're planning something like that, we need to recognize that we're going to need to reevaluate our plan as we go along. And that might need us to step back a pace. It might need us to come down a ladder that we're on, so that we can get back up onto a ladder, a junction adjacent to it, that can take us a little higher.
That's very well put. Yes, absolutely. All right. And not a straight path, this, indeed. And I think the more we can get to work with the humility of it, that the best people have gone through the biggest journeys too. So I think that brings in a tone of humility.
Yeah. Well, we just see the success, don't we? So this is one of the problems when we're sort of looking at people who've achieved things, is we just see them as the finished product, and we think, wow, that's amazing. And we don't see all the pain and the sacrifice that they've gone through, all the times that they failed and failed and failed and failed again, before they reach the position that they're in now. And we get too obsessed with celebrating their perceived perfection or attainment, and not enough focus on the journey that got them there, I think.
That's so true. And I think to tap into what motivates us, really, I think that will lead us to a more fruitful, more healthier sort of confidence. And like you were saying, the more authentic confidence that you were talking about, Lorian, that is rooted in knowing ourselves, where we say, okay, I've taken a hit now, and so I just need to keep moving and try it in a different way. So it's not about externalities, but it's about ourselves and our belief in ourselves that we can change the situation we're in. Having that sort of belief would help us find ways to take steps towards our goal, and in the wayfinding, so to say. Absolutely. So many thoughts coming up to me now. I'm finding it hard to speak as we go. Maybe a good time for a meditation then.
Yeah.
Is that the sign?
Yeah, let's just rebalance and reset ourselves. So I'm just going to do a very simple practice just to give us a moment to reset, or even to bring us to the end of the session, depending on how we're doing. Just going to do simply the 3-step breathing space exercise. And so yeah, we're gonna sit in this meditation if you're happy to, and we're going to simply invite an awareness of what is. We're going to focus on the breath, And then we're finally going to expand back out. So we're starting from a point of simple awareness to the current situation. We're then really zooming in our attention onto something really small. And then we are reopening ourselves back out to the world around us. So that's the essence of the 3-step breathing space. So if you're happy to, just let your eyes gently close, or if you'd rather have them open, that is fine also. Just let them softly focus somewhere in the middle distance so that you're not really paying attention to anything in particular. And allow the body to come to a comfortable position, whether you're sitting or lying. If you're sitting and it's something you're able to do, just sit upright a little, away from the back of the chair if possible. Let the shoulders relax. And take a couple of breaths, slow and steady, just to focus yourself and perhaps set a simple intention of just noticing what is during this experience and allowing your attention to be rooted here for this experience. And as you begin now, simply pay attention to the present moment of you. So notice any thoughts that are bouncing around. Where are they taking you? The past, the future? Are they pleasant, unpleasant, or neither? Notice any tendency to criticize or judge any thoughts that might be bouncing around there. Just see if you can just pay attention to them, nothing else. And now checking in with the state of your body again in this moment. Is it feeling comfortable and relaxed? Or perhaps it's tired and achy. Perhaps there's a blend of the two. And again, notice if there's any pressure to feel a certain way, for the body to be a certain way. Any resistance to discomfort or to tiredness. And see if it's possible to just let that go as well. And now we're going to focus our attention as precisely as possible onto the experience of the breath itself. Possibly at the tip of the nose, if that feels right for you, or perhaps at the belly, if you prefer. Find a place where you can feel the breath most intuitively and really zoom into that space. So you're just letting everything else dissolve into the peripheral. And you're paying close, curious, kindly attention to the sensations as you breathe in this moment. The movement of the body, any differential in temperature, pressure, sense of tingling. And if the mind comes along and distracts you with thought, just note those thoughts gently and let them go. Come back to the breath. Focused attention, the tip of the nose, the belly. Resting awareness here. Now, as we move to the third stage, keep your attention anchored in part to the breath wherever you are rooted, the nose, the belly. So keeping a secure handhold or foothold with that experience. And now opening up to the other sensations in the body that present themselves. Any experience in the arms, the legs, the back, the head. Allowing yourself to notice any thoughts that might be arising in conjunction with the space of the breath. Keeping anchored to the breath as you let your consciousness open up to the other experiences. Any emotional quality that might be present. And now the sense of sound about you. Become aware of the wider space. Sense of the temperature of the room you're in, any noises from the world around. And when you're ready, opening the eyes and just letting that visual space fill as well. But all the while keeping some attention focused, anchored with the breath at the nose, at the belly. So just sharing this space, sharing awareness, rooted in the breath, open to the wider experience of the self and the conscious space around you. And perhaps just take one final focused breath. And if it feels okay to, perhaps just give a little word of thanks for yourself for taking part in this practice, for giving the time, for paying attention to the experience. Thank you. So when you're ready, just opening the eyes and stretching the body a little if you want to, having a sip of water if that feels right. And I'll hand back over to Avanti.
That was very serene, Lauren. I think we needed that to quell the thoughts that came up, and coming back to doing the live stream after 4 weeks. I mean, we have a little bit of a learning cycle here. So, but hopefully, to all our viewers, I hope you enjoyed the discussion conversation, because I did. I think it was nice to get back together, talk about this very important aspect of confidence building. So thank you for that. And so we'll see you next week. Any parting thoughts, Laurie and Oliver?
Oh, yes. Every time towards the ending, we feel that should be another session on the same topic. So
we'll have a follow-up for week. Yeah, we'll go back to week 1 and see and follow up on all of them and see.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, but thank you. Yes, Lauren, thank you, Oliver. Have a lovely week, and we'll be back next week with another topic. Thank you very much. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Cheers.